Hi, this is Harrison Page. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson, along with their guests Ann Serling and Jodi Serling, the daughters of Rod Serling, and Marc Scott Zicree, author of the Twilight Zone Companion. Ann Serling, also the author of As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling. We're celebrating the 65th anniversary of the premiere of the Twilight Zone on CBS television, as well as the 100th anniversary of the birth of Rod Serling. Rod Serling's centennial birthday was this past December 25th. The Twilight Zone Companion is not only one of the best television reference books ever written, it is also one of the most influential, having influenced a whole generation of TV series creators and filmmakers, including J.J. Abrams and Vince Gilligan, while As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling, offers readers an intimate look at Rod Serling as a father and as a visionary, blending both personal memories with rare family photographs and letters. Both As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling, and The Twilight Zone Companion, available wherever books are sold, as well as Amazon.com. Before we went to break, Ann, Jodi, Marc, and I were discussing In Praise of Pip, the very poignant episode featuring Jack Klugman and Billy Mumy that was very personal to Rod Serling at the time he originally wrote that episode, and which was also personal for Ann Serling for reasons she discusses in As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling. As we pick up the conversation, Marc Scott Zicree was about to share a behind-the-scenes story between Bill Mumy and Jack Klugman at the time they filmed In Praise of Pip.
And I remember Bill Mumy telling me that Jack Klugman sat him down and said, "Look, I'm going to be doing these scenes where I'm going to be very emotional with you, and I don't want you to get upset because this is just acting; it's pretend. So don't worry about it." And Bill Mumy really appreciated that. And Klugman it's so raw and naked when he's pleading with God to take his life instead of his son's. It's so spectacular. And it's funny because it was shot at Pacific Ocean Park, which was an amusement park that was only open for about a decade. And I used to go there as a kid, that Hall of Mirrors. And, it's like, it's old home week. It's so, for those of us who grew up in LA,
yeah,
seeing these locations is so wonderful, and, it's a wonderful, but Bill, it's fun because now I'm working with Bill on multiple projects now. He's in Space Command, the science fiction show I'm shooting. And, it's just so much fun to talk to him about those old days. And I'll tell you one thing that's great. I interviewed over 100 people who worked with Rod over the length of his career, and no one had a bad word to say about Rod. No one. And that's, for Hollywood, that's pretty amazing. And that really speaks to the quality of the man. And I remember Bill telling me when he did a Hitchcock show, at one point, Bill Mumy was in a Hitchcock episode, and Hitchcock came right up to him and towered over him, this huge, fat guy. And Hitchcock said to Bill Mumy, who was a little kid at the time, he said, "If you don't stay on your mark, I will get nails and I will pound them through your feet and the blood will flow like milk." So obviously this was not Rod Serling being the wonderful, this was Hitchcock being the opposite of that. And, so it was, but everyone loved Rod. Everyone loved him. He was just, and he was honorable, and he wasn't a Hollywood snake. He wasn't a backstabber. He was, what you see is what you get. I mean, yeah.
The real deal.
Yes, the real deal. And I must tell you that, that how Rod held himself in the world inspired me also. He teaches you as a Hollywood writer producer to be authentic, to have loyalty, to honor your word. If you say something, you mean it and you follow through, to be upfront with people and to come from your heart, to come from passion, to say, what do I care about? What do I feel strongly about? What, and also not waste the opportunity that you're talking to millions of people, and that you can actually have an impact and not step away from that. Rod really took his responsibilities as a writer enormously seriously, and we're all the better for it.
Any final thoughts on the legacy of Rod Serling, the life of Rod Serling, that you'd like to add that I haven't already asked you? Jodi first, then Ann, then Marc.
I guess, the more, when I was a child, I wanted to be my own self and didn't want to be associated with that Hollywood scene. And my dad said, "You go for it, you be yourself." And I didn't know a lot about my dad growing up, but as I've gotten older, I began to really appreciate what an incredible person he was, what an incredible father he was. And I'm sorry that I missed, when he died, I was so young. I didn't really appreciate what an incredible human being he was. And now I'm learning more and more about him. And I'm awestruck. I mean, it's just amazing what an incredible man he has and the legacy that he continues to leave for all of us. And I love him and I miss him every day.
Anne?
I was paralyzed with grief when my dad died. And it took me decades really to navigate that whole minefield of grief, which is one of the reasons I wrote the book, to work through the grief. Another reason was to learn more about my dad's professional life. And the third reason was to dispel rumors that he was this dark and tortured soul, because he was, as I said, the polar opposite. And I want to add that I'm so grateful to the people like Marc who have kept his legacy alive and tell me just these beautiful stories about, some became writers because of my dad, or so many people have told me they had tumultuous childhoods and thought of my dad as their father. And he'd just be so staggered to hear something like that. But it's just so humbling to know that he touched so many people's lives, and he touched mine deeply.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just enormously grateful to both you, Anne, and you, Jodi, for letting me into your world when it was so recent. Your father's death was so recent, and yet you were so kind to me and so welcoming. And I'm very, very glad that I put in those 5 years and was able to really talk to the people and really explore that world, that wonderful world. And the fact that the book has sold over 500,000 copies and is still in print. And I did the third edition recently just to add more material. It's got 100 more pages, 500 new photographs, audio and video links, because it's endlessly interesting and endlessly profound. And yeah, I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to people, the great creators of television of the last few decades. You wouldn't have The Sopranos if not for Rod. You wouldn't have Better Call Saul. You wouldn't have The Simpsons has benefited enormously from Twilight Zone. And so whether it's comedy showrunners or drama showrunners, we all love Rod, and we all look to him to show us what this amazing medium can do. And he was just revelatory. So both for the audience, where he showed them the world through that lens, and they were better for that. And I mean, even an episode, like Kick the Can, which George Clayton Johnson wrote, but Twilight Zone allowed to exist, where you say we can't play Kick the Can alone. We need others to make the magic happen. And Rod allowed this great playground for those writers and those directors and those actors, and he's allowed this wonderful opportunity for all of us as writer producers to continue in his legacies.
As I like to say, at a time when television was denounced as the vast wasteland,
Yes.
He elevated the form every week, and not only showed that even within the confines of a 22-minute network television series, you can still produce something every week that has something that has something to say, that has much more of a lasting impact beyond the 22 minutes that it entertains. He did that throughout his career.
Yes. And by the way, another big fan of Rod's is Matt Weiner, who created Mad Men. I mean, I did when I produced the Twilight Zone Blu-ray set, I did 52 commentaries, and I chose not only the people who'd worked on the show, but also the people who'd been inspired by the show. And but it's been lovely spending this time talking about Rod and sharing your
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Oh.
I just wanted to go along and say that, ironically, my dad never saw the signpost up ahead when it came to his own writing,
Yes.
with his supernova imagination. And he just never could foresee the pervasive and lasting influence that his writings have become. They're thoroughly ingrained in all of our consciousness. And I just know my dad would be so honored and humble. And I wish he was here to see what his legacy is doing. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you both got to see what his work became, what the lasting impact. But yes, we all wish Rod were here on his 100th birthday. Yeah. It would be wonderful, and I'm sure he'd be as delightful at 100 as he was throughout his entire life. So, thank you for spending this time with us. It's been a joy, and
thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
Hi, this is Diane Baker, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
Both As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling, and The Twilight Zone Companion, available wherever books are sold, as well as Amazon.com. A reminder that Linda Pearl will be starring in the world premiere of Crazy Mama, an emotionally riveting tale written by Sharon Scott Williams at the legendary Rubicon Theater in Ventura, California. 10 performances only, Wednesday, March 26th through Sunday, April 6th. Tickets and more information, 805-667-2900 or rubicontheater.org/events/Crazy Mama. Linda Pearl will also be performing her new music show called Possibilities, Songs of Hope, Risk, and Maybe at the Catalina Jazz Club in Hollywood, California. One night only, Sunday, March 16th, beginning at 7:30. Tickets and more information, CatalinaJazzClub.com. For more on A. Scott Galloway, AScottGalloway.net. Ed Robertson, back for Tony Figueroa, down to Ellen, Phil Grice, and Susan Silver. Thank you so much for listening. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll talk to you next time on TV Confidential.